I work reception at Hôpital Bichat in Paris, and last month an American woman literally started crying at the payment window. Not because the bill was high. Because it was 87 euros for an entire emergency room visit, X-rays, and a specialist consultation. She kept asking me where the rest of it was. She thought we'd only charged her for parking. The couple ahead of her had just paid 340 euros without flinching, so I assumed she'd been mentally preparing herself for thousands. She pulled out this massive folder of insurance documents and credit cards, all organized with colored tabs and sticky note. I brought 6 different payment methods, she told me, hands shaking. My deductible alone is $6,000 back home. I explained that no, 87 euros was the complete amount, everything included. She sat down on the floor and cried for 10 minutes. Her husband had to help her up. Before they left, she asked if she could take a photo of the receipt because nobody back in Kansas would believe her. I said sure. She also asked for my business card, which we don't have, because apparently she wanted proof that a real hospital employee had confirmed this wasn't a mistake. Same week, another American came to pay and thought we'd made an error because his bill said 0 euros. He'd been there 3 days for pneumonia, got antibiotics, meals, a private room, and full treatment. I had to explain twice that yes, emergency care for life-threatening conditions is covered even for tourists in some situations. He asked, "But who pays for it?" I said French taxpayers. He stared at me for a solid minute and then asked if he could donate money to France. Not the hospital. France. I told him that's called taxes, and he said he'd gladly pay them. Then he asked if he could move here. I gave him the immigration office number. A Canadian guy standing behind him started laughing and said, "Welcome to how the rest of us feel about your healthcare system." The American didn't even argue. He just nodded sadly and walked out holding his 0 euro bill like it was a diploma. I've worked here 8 years, and this happens every summer. The Americans arrive prepared for financial devastation and leave confused about why their credit cards are still cold. Some of them get angry like we're trying to scam them by undercharging. One woman accused us of pulling a bait and switch and demanded to see the real bill that would arrive later. I told her there was no second bill. She said, "There's always a second bill." She waited in the lobby for 2 hours convinced someone would come get more money from her. Eventually security had to explain that she was medically and financially free to leave. She walked out backwards, maintaining eye contact with me the entire time, like I might chase her down with a surprise invoice. I'm a medical translator at Clinique Pasteur in Toulouse, and last spring an American executive got his blood test results and demanded to speak to billing immediately. He'd been charged 24 euros for a full metabolic panel, cholesterol screening, and thyroid function tests. He was convinced we'd only charged him for one test and forgotten the others. His assistant had already called their corporate insurance 3 times trying to get pre-authorization for blood work that was already done and paid for. He kept saying, "This can't be right. At home, this costs $830 before insurance." I showed him the itemized receipt. Everything was listed. He went silent, then asked if he could get a second copy to frame. Not joking. He wanted to frame a 24 euro medical bill. His assistant asked me if France had discovered some kind of medical technology that made healthcare cheaper. I explained it's just regulated pricing and a public insurance system. She said, "So you have like futuristic machines that run on solar power or something?" I said no, we just don't let pharmaceutical companies and hospitals charge whatever they want. She wrote that down in her notebook like I'd revealed a state secret. Before leaving, the executive asked if he could schedule his annual physical here and just fly in from Boston for it. I said legally he could, but he'd need to wait 3 months for insurance coverage. He pulled out his calculator and started running numbers. Even with the flight, hotel, and paying full price, it's cheaper than my deductible. He booked an apartment for September. My brother manages a dental clinic in Marseille, and last summer an American woman arrived for an emergency root canal. After the procedure, she sat in the waiting room for 45 minutes. The receptionist finally asked if she needed something. She said she was waiting for them to process her insurance claim so she'd know how much she owed. The receptionist explained the bill was €280, total, right now, no insurance needed. The woman went pale. That includes the root canal? Yes. And the x-rays? Yes. And the temporary crown? All included. The woman started breathing into a paper bag. She explained that in Arizona, her dentist had quoted her $2,700 for the exact same procedure, which was why she'd been living with the pain for 4 months. I came to Paris on vacation because I couldn't afford to fix my tooth at home, she said. I was going to suffer through it, but the pain got too bad. She paid the €280 and asked if she could get a receipt in English because she wanted to mail it to her dentist back home. My brother asked why. She said, so he knows I know what he's doing. She then asked if our clinic was hiring American dentists. We're not. She asked if we could be. I work at a maternity ward in Nantes, and an American woman came in for her delivery expecting a catastrophic bill. After giving birth, spending 3 days in a private room, and receiving all postpartum care, her bill came to €0 because she'd been living in France for 4 months and had her temporary healthcare coverage. She assumed we'd forgotten to bill her and kept calling the hospital every day for 2 weeks asking where the invoice was. Finally, a supervisor had to sit her down and explain that no, France doesn't charge you €30,000 to have a baby. She said, but what about the epidural? The pediatrician visits? The lactation consultant? The meals? All included. She started crying again. Her husband, also American, said, we almost didn't move here because we were worried about the healthcare being substandard. They're never going back. I'm a phlebotomist at a medical lab in Nice, and last year an American retiree needed routine blood work for diabetes monitoring. She watched me draw her blood and immediately started asking about payment plans. I can do €100 per month, she said. Is that acceptable? I told her the total was €15.80 for the complete panel. She thought I meant the monthly installment. When I clarified it was the full price, paid today, she grabbed my arm and whispered, are you a black market lab? I showed her our official accreditation on the wall. She examined it closely, then asked if France was even a real country or some kind of socialist experiment. I pointed out the window at the Mediterranean Sea and said we're extremely real. She apologized, paid her €15.80, and sat in her car in our parking lot for an hour. Later, the receptionist told me she'd been video calling her friends in Florida, showing them the receipt, and nobody believed her. I'm a hotel concierge in Bordeaux, and an American guest asked me to recommend a hospital that wouldn't bankrupt him because he needed minor surgery for a hernia. I sent him to see Chu Pellegrin. He called me from the hospital in tears, not from pain but from relief. They'd quoted him €1,200 for the entire procedure including the surgeon, anesthesiologist, operating room, overnight stay, and follow-up appointments. He said his surgeon in Texas wanted $47,000 for the same operation. The anesthesia alone was quoted at $6,000, he told me. Here it's included in the €1,200. He asked if he could wire me money as a thank you for the recommendation. I said that's not necessary. He insisted on leaving me a €200 tip anyway and wrote in the hotel guest book, the concierge saved my financial life. He also asked if I knew any immigration lawyers. My cousin handles international patients at a private clinic in Cannes, and last month an American woman arrived for a consultation about knee replacement surgery. She brought a notarized letter from her bank showing she had $75,000 available for the procedure, which is what she'd been quoted in Florida. Our surgeon told her the total cost here, completely out of pocket with no insurance, would be 14,000 euros. She asked him to repeat that. Then she asked if he'd converted the currency correctly. Then she asked if this was a payment per month. He explained no, 14,000 euro total, everything included, one payment. She handed him the bank letter and said, "This feels like a drug deal. I don't trust transactions this cheap." The surgeon, who studied at Johns Hopkins, started laughing and said, "I assure you this is legal medicine." She scheduled the surgery, came back 6 weeks later, had the operation, spent 5 days recovering, and paid 13,800 euro total. Before flying home, she asked if she could donate the remaining $60,000 from her surgery fund to the hospital. My cousin explained we can't accept donations that large without paperwork. She said she'd mail a check anyway. We're still not sure if she was serious. My sister works at a physical therapy clinic in Rennes, and last fall an American teacher came in needing treatment for a shoulder injury. She'd been living with the pain for 18 months because her insurance in Georgia had denied coverage for PT, calling it not medically necessary. In France, she needed 15 sessions. The cost per session was 60 euros, 60% reimbursed by public insurance, leaving her paying 24 euros per session out of pocket. Total out of pocket for all 15 sessions, 360 euros. She did the math and realized that was less than her insurance deductible back home. I couldn't even start treatment in America until I'd paid $2,000 out of pocket, she explained. Here I'm getting world-class care for a fraction of that. After her final session, she asked our physical therapist if he made house calls in the United States. He said no, he works in France. She said, "That's what I was afraid of." She moved to Rennes permanently 6 months later, and now sends us a Christmas card every year thanking us for existing. I'm a surgeon at a private hospital in Aix-en-Provence, and last year an American businessman scheduled a consultation for gallbladder removal. During our meeting, he spent more time asking about costs than his actual medical condition. "Just give me the worst-case scenario," he said. I told him 5,200 euros if complications arose, but likely closer to 4,500 euros for a standard laparoscopic procedure. He asked if that was the surgeon's fee alone. I explained no, that's everything. Surgeon, anesthesiologist, operating room, 2-night hospital stay, all medications, and follow-up care. He closed his laptop and said, "I'm sorry, I need a minute." He stepped out of my office and called his wife in California. I could hear him through the door saying, "Honey, we can actually afford this." When he came back, he had tears in his eyes. "My insurance denied this surgery twice," he said. "They called it elective because I'm not dying yet. I've been in pain for 2 years." We scheduled him for the following week. After his successful surgery, he wrote a 5-page letter to his insurance company with our itemized bill attached and the words, "See what's possible?" highlighted in yellow. He mailed me a copy. I'm a taxi driver in Paris, and last summer I picked up an American couple from Charles de Gaulle who just arrived for their daughter's wedding. The wife was explaining to her husband that they'd budgeted 5,000 euros for any medical emergencies during their 2-week trip, which she kept in a separate travel checking account. "That should cover an emergency room visit if something happens," she said. I turned around at a red light and told them an ER visit here costs maybe 100 euros without insurance. She said, "For what, an aspirin?" I explained no, for actual emergency care, x-rays, doctors, the whole thing. Her husband said, "He's messing with us." I showed them a receipt from when my daughter broke her wrist last year, 68 euro total. They went silent for the rest of the drive. When we arrived at their hotel, the wife asked if I was a healthcare expert. I said I just live here. She tipped me €50 and said, "For telling us the truth." I tried to refuse, but she insisted, saying it was the most valuable information anyone had given them about France. My nephew works at Gare du Nord train station information desk, and an American woman approached him in a panic asking where the nearest, cheap urgent care clinic was because her son had been vomiting all night. She said she couldn't afford a hospital but needed a doctor. My nephew directed her to Hôpital Lariboisière, 2 blocks away. She said, "No, not a hospital." I said cheap. He explained that French hospitals are cheap. She didn't believe him and asked for a walk-in clinic like CVS Minute Clinic. He had no idea what that was. Eventually, he convinced her to try the hospital, warning her it would probably cost around €30 to €50. She left skeptical. 3 hours later, she returned with her son, who'd been treated for food poisoning, given 4 fluids, prescribed medication, and released. Her bill was €41. She found my nephew at the information desk, showed him the receipt, and said, "I thought you were lying to me." He said no, that's just how it works here. She asked if French hospitals were government subsidized. He said yes, that's the entire system. She sat down on a bench and stared at the receipt for 20 minutes. Before leaving, she asked him if France needed English teachers because she had a master's degree and was suddenly very interested in moving here. I'm a tour guide in Versailles, and during a group tour last June, an American woman twisted her ankle badly on the palace grounds. She refused to let anyone call an ambulance, insisting she'd walk it off despite obvious pain and swelling. Her husband kept asking how much an ambulance would cost. Other tourists, all European, kept saying it would be fine and inexpensive, but the couple didn't believe them. Finally, a German woman got frustrated and said, "It's maybe €50, not $5,000 like your country." The American woman started crying, not from the ankle but from relief, and agreed to the ambulance. She was taken to a hospital in Versailles, got X-rays, a brace, and pain medication. Total bill, €73. Later, her husband called me to apologize for disrupting the tour and asked if France offered citizenship through medical tourism. I said no. He said, "That should be a thing." I'm a receptionist at a language school in Montpellier, and we host a lot of American students learning French. Last semester, one student showed up to class on crutches after breaking her foot playing soccer. Another American student asked her how much the ER visit had cost. She said €52. The second student said, "Per hour?" She said no, total. Wait, for the ER visit or just the X-ray? Both. The entire room of American students went quiet. One of them said, "That's less than my copay." Another said, "That's less than my Uber to the ER would have been at home." A third student pulled out her phone and started researching French work visas on the spot. Our teacher, who's French, didn't understand what was happening. She asked why everyone seemed upset. An American student said, "We're not upset, we're grieving." She asked what they were grieving. He said, "The $40,000 I've paid in medical costs over the last 5 years that apparently didn't need to happen." The class ended early because half the students were crying and the other half were filling out immigration paperwork. I'm a billing administrator at Hôpital St. Louis in Paris, and last week an American woman came to settle her account after a 3-day hospital stay for pneumonia treatment. The bill was €440. She handed me her credit card and asked when the rest would be charged. I told her that was the complete amount. She said, "No, I mean the big bill. The actual hospital bill." I explained this was it. She made me print out an itemized statement showing every charge. Room, medications, oxygen therapy, chest x-rays, 2 different specialists, all meals, nursing care. Everything listed. Total, €440. She read it 3 times, then asked if France was accepting permanent residents from Pennsylvania. I gave her a website for immigration services. She left holding that itemized receipt like it was a treasure map. As she reached the door, she turned around and said, "I'm going to show this to everyone I know." I told her most Americans react the same way. She said, "No, you don't understand. I'm going to show this to my congressman." I haven't seen her since, but I heard she started a blog called Healthcare Bills that made me cry. It has 40,000 followers. Every post is just photos of French medical bills with American price comparisons. She's become a minor celebrity in Pennsylvania. The American healthcare system has created an entire generation of people who think €440 for pneumonia treatment is a clerical error.